This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore. Just the other day on November 9th, I did a video about Paul Gosar and the grotesque, threatening video that he posted where he put his face in some anime cartoon and also included AOC and President Biden in it. And he depicted himself murdering AOC with a sword and then chasing after Biden with one too. Clear, veiled threats. Stochastic terrorism is what we're talking about right now. It didn't take any time at all. I'm actually shocked at the outcome. Shocked at the quickness of the Democrats taking action in the face of the inaction of the Republicans, in the face of doing nothing to curb one of their members' most violent and sinister tendencies. Even that day, I called for, at the very least, the censure of Paul Gosar. Here's just a brief couple of moments from that video. Up front, I want to say that if the Secret Service is not knocking on Paul Gosar's door right now, we got a problem. This is a direct threat to not only the President of the United States, but also a congresswoman with whom Paul Gosar works. The House Sergeant at Arms needs to be asking questions. Paul Gosar needs to be, at the very least, censured for this. Censured for this. Expelled from the body would be my choice. Removed from his committee assignments would be another. Jailed would be also quite effective. So all that to say, it doesn't take a genius to figure out what the outcome needed to be. What I want to talk about today, very briefly, I'm going to play a few clips of Paul Gosar on the floor before the vote. And I want to talk about what this was about. This was about one member of Congress, one employee at a workplace threatening the life of another, and the company expected to do nothing about it. Republicans didn't want to do anything about it. In fact, when they got to the floor of the House to give their individual speeches, they didn't even justify what he did. All they did was create a three-ring circus of whataboutism. Well, what about this? Well, what about that? This thing is bad that we say it's bad. They're equating many different members of Congress and their speeches and their calls to action for their constituencies and Americans in general, and they're equating that to threatening the life of a member of Congress. This is where the Republican Party is dangerous. It is no longer. This is why it disappoints me so much when Joe Biden goes out of his way to talk about bipartisanship. Because if we are obsequious and showering, fawning praise on individuals who won't even hold a member of their own party accountable for threatening the life of another member, what is there to kumbaya about? What is there to get bipartisan about, to compromise about? Let's start with Congresswoman Jackie Speier, who herself was a victim of political violence during the Jonestown massacre when she went as an aide with, I believe his name was Congressman Ryan, who was killed by the cult members, shot like 40 times, over 40 times, and she survived multiple gunshot wounds, and she herself became a congresswoman. She was a victim of cult violence, just like AOC is being threatened by the new cult on the scene. Watch Jackie Speier. She does a beautiful job of explaining exactly what we're talking about here.
We're here today because a sitting member thought it was okay to post a deranged animated video of himself killing a fellow member of this House and also attacking the President of the United States. That video has been seen by 3 million people. It was up for over 2 days before it was taken down. Inciting violence begets violence. Congressman Ocasio-Cortez has become the go-to subject of the radical right to stir up their base, as too often is the case for women of color. It is disgusting and profoundly unacceptable. Tragically, the minority leader has not condemned the video. For 8 days, he said nothing. Silence speaks volumes. Silence normalizes violence. Violence against women in politics is a global phenomenon. A 2016 survey by the Interparliamentary Union found that 82% of women parliamentarians have experienced psychological violence, and 44% have received threats of death, rape, beatings, or abduction. The intent of these online threats against women is clear. Silence them, strip them of their power, and discourage them from running for office. The congressman defends his post, published with House resources and posted on his official Twitter and Instagram accounts. It didn't stop there. He sent an email to supporters that weekend stating that the faux outrage was infantile. This is not faux outrage. This is not infantile. And then he went on to say the accusations are shrill and hyperventilating. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to glean that this is gendered coded language.
She is not wrong. Paul Gosar has a long, storied history of deranged behavior, actively aligning himself with dangerous white supremacist ideologies and individuals. And the Republican Party, oh well, we don't care. In fact, why would we care? It fully aligns with the ethos of our party. And then they allow idiots, the poor man's Sarah Palin. Listen, Lauren Boebert is such a dullard that she makes Sarah Palin look like a Rhodes Scholar. She gets up and doesn't just refute the charges. She goes on full attack, saying the most heinous things in her little diatribe, which is absolutely just for show. It is a performance. As she's bebopping around and moving her head from side to side and shaking her arm around. Watch this remarkable dummy who happens to have been graced with power representing a congressional district in America. Disgusting.
The Speaker has designated the floor to discuss members' inappropriate actions. Shall we? The Jihad Squad member from Minnesota has paid her husband, and not her brother husband, the other one, over $1 million in campaign funds. This member is allowed on the Foreign Affairs Committee while praising terrorists. A Democrat chairwoman incited further violence in the streets outside of a courthouse. And then the cherry on top. My colleague and 3-month presidential candidate from California, who is on the Intelligence Committee, slept with Fang Fang, a Chinese spy. Let me say that again. A member of Congress who receives classified briefings was sleeping with the enemy. This is unacceptable, and this would never be...
Time's expired. Gentleman from Florida.
Now listen, each of those claims can be refuted. It wouldn't take a lot of time or energy, but I'm not going to give it oxygen because it's all lies. It's all deeply rooted rabbit hole conspiracy theories that don't hold up under the light of any scrutiny whatsoever. You have to be a dum-dum to believe them. But to call them the Jihad Squad, one of them, Ilhan Omar, being a Muslim, this is bigotry. Sanctioned bigotry. She herself should be censured for that comment. In an amazing twist of beautiful irony, her house or her campaign manager's offices and house were raided by the FBI yesterday because of criminality or suspected, alleged, cover myself legally, criminality related to elections and voting. Projection. And then I'm going to play one more clip of Paul Gosar himself when given a chance to apologize, to say I went too far. He goes on a buzzword reciting campaign about Marxism and socialism, blah, 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 and immigration, and trying to justify the cartoon, because that's what they've tried to do, is that this is about a cartoon. As though if you kidnap someone and write a hostage note, like with cutout letters from a magazine, that's not, you can't take that letter seriously. It was what was the contents of the cartoon, you idiots. Watch Paul Gosar.
I rise today to address and reject the mischaracterization, accusations from many in this body that the cartoon from my office is dangerous or threatening. It was not. And I reject the false narrative categorically. I do not espouse violence towards anyone. I never have. It was not my purpose to make anyone upset. I voluntarily took the cartoon down, not because it was itself a threat, but because some thought it was. Out of compassion for those who generally felt offense, I self-censored. Last week, my staff posted a video depicting a policy battle regarding amnesty for tens of millions of illegal aliens. This is an enemy that speaks to young voters who are too often overlooked. Even Twitter, the left's mouthpiece, did not remove the cartoon, noting it was in the public's interest for it to remain. The cartoon directly contributes to the understanding and the discussion of the real-life battle resulting from this administration's open border policies. This body is considering passage of Mr. Biden's reckless, socialist, Marxist $4.9 trillion spending bill that provides $100 billion for amnesty to tens of millions of illegal aliens already in this country. This is what the left doesn't want the American people to know. Our country is suffering from the plague of illegal immigration. I don't stop pointing this out, nor will I.
It is easy to espouse with one's mouth, to let fly from your lips, Paul Gosar, that you don't espouse violence against anyone. It's easy to say it. But when your words do not match your deeds, it either means you're a hypocrite or a liar or a lying, hypocritical hypocrite. It is a not well-kept secret that Paul Gosar is an unhinged lunatic and believed to be so even by his own party. He's not a well-liked individual. But because they are in a cult, a dangerous, violent cult filled with stochastic terrorists, they rally around him. This is where we are. This is why activism matters. This is why organization matters. This is why getting to the polls matters. Not being disheartened by the current political environment. You owe it to future generations to stay involved, to defeat the very real existential threat to our republic that Republicans pose. You owe it. I owe it to my kids and their kids future generations. What do you think, though? I would love to know. You can call, leave me a brief voicemail, 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me daily at dollemore.com. Thanks for joining me. It's not usually this heavy, but sometimes that's what is needed. Follow me on social media. I'd love to mix it up with you there. I'm at Dollemore everywhere. Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all the social medias. And if I bring you value, if you think what I'm doing is important and you want to join, help produce what I do, help support my efforts here, you can click the join button below this video, become a channel member for as little as $1.99 a month. If I'm able to marshal the size of my large, medium-sized and growing audience, I would be able to really grow this operation into something fantastic. We are on our way to Washington, D.C. in the new year. You'll be hearing more about that. I'll probably do a video just specifically about that. And you will be able to help in that effort, in the growth of what we're doing here. You can also go over to Patreon. Patreon.com/IDoubtItPodcast is another fantastic way to help what I do here. I love you guys. I appreciate you very much. I will see you next time. Until then, be genuine. Take care of one another.